Hey, everybody, welcome to my second episode on Get Inspired with Unique. My name is Unique, that is my legal name. I do get asked that question quite a bit. Today is Thursday, August 10th. The year is 2023, and it is 1:42 p.m. Eastern Time here in North Carolina. I don't know how I want to dive into this podcast. I do know that I wanted to touch on the topic of knowing your worth. This has been something that's really been on my mind heavily for the last couple of days. And it's really been on my mind a lot pretty much over the last 2 years. We sell ourselves short a lot in life. We really do. There's a lot of things, we're all good at, and we offer a lot of value to the people who come into our lives, to the companies that we work for, just, wherever we bring our presence. And sometimes I feel like either we sell ourselves short because of lack of education, just not being in the know, being ignorant of things. And when I say ignorant, I don't want that to sound offensive, because a lot of times when someone says, "Oh, you're ignorant," it has like a very negative meaning to it. And ignorant doesn't have to be like an insult. It just simply, I'm just saying it in the context of we don't know. Sometimes we sell ourselves short, or we don't really realize our value because of ignorance, or sometimes because we have to make that choice to just accept the bare minimum because, we might be struggling in life or whatever. I hope that didn't sound like a bunch of ramble. I don't have my talking points written down for how I want to guide this podcast, so I'm just kind of winging it. When I am saying all of these words right now in this podcast, what I have on my mind right now is the money that we work really hard to try to make, and the fact that companies out here are knowingly underpaying people, and it's causing people to just, struggle. It's crazy. People go to college, get an education to try to get a better paying job. And then a lot of people don't even get a job with the degree they spent all that hard earned money and all those years getting. And I guess I'll put a little bit of my personal life into this scenario of what I'm talking about. I went to college, got my degree in business, also got a concentration in information technology, just so I could have a surface level understanding of IT related topics and stuff like that. So again, the core of my degree was business administration with a light understanding of information technology. My first job out of college would be a job working as a business assistant, which I was later promoted into an accounting project coordinator role. And the job, I remember when I did get the offer letter for working at this company, they told me that the starting pay for this entry level position was going to be $26,000 a year. That translates to $12.50 an hour. But because I had my business degree, they put me at $30,000 a year, which put me at $14.42 an hour. I'm just giving you those two conversion rates. Now, this would be back in early 2017. Now, fast forward to 2023, I had to walk away from that job because they still kept me stuck at that same pay rate of the $14 an hour range. And I kind of shot myself in the foot because I did not ask for a pay raise. I kind of just assumed the company would be willing to give me the pay raise that I deserved because I had been with the company 5.5 years. I was putting in a lot of overtime, even though the company didn't pay overtime. I hardly ever used my vacation days, and I hardly ever used my sick days. And my job responsibilities increased by more than half, more than 50%. Whenever you apply to a job and they list everything out on your job description that they would want you to do, you just go in, you get hired, and you complete those tasks that they are asking you to do. So again, after 5.5 years, my responsibilities with this company increased, but my pay did not increase. And, I was just really ignorant and naive of, the corporate world. And I just thought to myself, hard work should warrant being paid better. But I was wrong. I should have opened my mouth and asked to have a raise. After the pandemic, I believe the CDC declared the United States as being in a pandemic mid-March of 2020. And here we are in August of 2023. Now that things have calmed down and, restrictions have long since been lifted, people are not being forced to stay at home or whatever. Restaurants have opened up. People are able to go to concerts and whatnot, going out to the park. We're not on lockdown anymore. A lot of companies have been having a hard time trying to find people to work for them. That is because a lot of people started to realize their worth. A lot of people were able to work from home. A lot of people realized they were able to have a better work-life, personal life balance, not having to drive to work all the time. If you have kids and stuff like that, it's easier to be at home and attend to the kids while working remotely for whatever company that you work for. But I know some of these companies have not liked that because they're not able to micromanage their employees or keep an eye on what the employees are doing. Not only that, but people were able to make a lot more money because of signing up for unemployment and all that jazz. Like, I don't really know how that process goes because I didn't do it. I didn't try to, benefit from unemployment like everybody else was. But allegedly, what I'm hearing is a lot of people were making more money from unemployment than they were, working for these companies that were underpaying them. So I'm going to digress from that whole point. I want to say this. I've been noticing that a lot of these companies have been willing to pay people $15, $16, $17, $18 an hour. Just even working at some of these, fast food restaurants. And that is more than what I was making at my job coming out of college. And I think that's just that's like an insult, man. That's like a serious slap to the face. And again, I know I said this before, I shot myself in the foot by not asking for a raise. One of my coworkers at this company that I was working for, he told me that I needed to research what other people were making in my area to really try and set myself up for a good, I don't want to call it like an argument, but a good proposition to negotiate getting a better salary with the company. I believe he told me to go to this website called salary.com. I think that's what it was. And you have to put in the city for where you work, what your job title is, what your educational experience is, how long you've been doing whatever it is you're doing, what is your job title, and it will give you a range of what people are getting paid from the lowest end of the spectrum all the way to the highest. And I was closer to the lower end of the spectrum. I was so disappointed. And there were people who were making almost double what I was making, which would be close to $28, $29 an hour. You mean to tell me after 5.5 years being with a company that I'm still stuck close to what I started at? That is a big slap in the face. And, that really did set me back financially because working that job by itself did not pay all the bills. It really did not. I had a car loan. I had school loans. I had other forms of debt that I needed to pay off. And I had to resort to working 2 other part-time jobs just to make ends meet. And, it just doesn't make sense to do that when if you're working full-time with a company, giving them 8 to 9 to 10 hours of your day every day, essentially you're not using your time wisely. And I say that because in order for you to make more money, you would want to put more of your time toward whatever is making you the most money. And for me, my part-time jobs were making me more money at an hourly rate. If you look at things from an hourly rate perspective, my part-time jobs paid me way better than what my full-time job was. So essentially, my full-time job should have been the part-time, and my part-time should have been the full-time. But when you are working salary, you have to put in those 40 hours a week, you know? And then again, this job did not allow overtime, so I didn't have a choice. But yeah, I got effed over. I was set back financially for a very long time. And I also recall coming across a YouTube video where this person was running some statistical data or looking at numbers as far as people's salaries. And I remember hearing something along the lines of whenever a person has been working in the workforce for about 40 years, if you do not ask for a pay raise or to have your salary evaluated, the average man or woman misses out on about $1.2 million up to $1.4 million of potential money they could have made in those 40 years. So again, that's 1.2 through $1.4 million of extra money that you don't make if you do not ask for a raise across those 40 years. I was like, wow, that's a lot of money we're leaving on the table because we don't ask for the pay raise. Again, just to echo what I said earlier, I didn't ask for a pay raise because I was inexperienced. I was a lot younger coming into the workforce, right out of college, trying to make a living. I didn't have a lot of adulting experience. So all I had to rely on was, what things were like for me in my teenage years going into the few years that I was in college. And I was always taught that when you work hard, you get rewarded for your hard work. But that doesn't really always apply when it comes to working for these companies to get paid. You need to be asking for a pay raise every year. And yeah, you want to work hard, but you want to be able to have a legitimate foundation to your proposition to your employer for why you should be getting some type of a pay raise. And a lot of us we don't do it, either because we don't know how to ask for the pay raise, we're inexperienced, we might be afraid of being told no. I know that was one of my reasons, being afraid of, rejection, being told no. But again, like a lot of us, we shoot ourselves in the foot. We really underestimate ourselves. We really do not. I guess what I want to say is we don't think as highly of ourselves the way we should. The fact that we learn all these skills to help build up someone else's establishment and someone else's empire, and we don't get paid our worth for doing that, it's just crazy. And it's crazy that, companies, they don't value you. You're just a number. When it comes to working for a company, everything is on employment at will terms. That means the employer can fire you and let you go whenever they feel like it, as long as it's not for a discriminatory reason. And it also means that you as an employee can quit and leave whenever you want. So because there's no loyalty from either party, you're just a number to these companies. Back in the day, way before I was even born. An employee would put in, I don't know how many years they would put in, like maybe 20, 30 years, however long they needed to work for a company in order to safely retire and rely on getting a check for the rest of their life from that employer. I guess you call it a retirement check or something like that. Those days are long gone. People can just job hop and, quit and find another job and get paid more. And I've also heard that people make a lot more money faster when they do that, just leaving a job instead of staying loyal to a company that doesn't value you. And also, these companies are always trying to find a way to pay someone less. If they can find someone who they can pay $30,000 a year to do work for them versus paying someone else $60,000 a year, they're going to go with the $30,000 a year person. Because you have to realize these companies, if they have to pay someone labor wages, that's a cost of doing business. And the objective of going into business is to make a profit. And the way that you make a profit is to keep your revenue high and your expenses low. And the difference between, your revenue and your expenses equals your profit. So companies can't be profitable if their expenses equal their revenue. So I completely understand why companies would not want to pay someone so much money. But at the same time, you can still pay someone fairly. I feel like a lot of these companies are just straight up being greedy. Just straight up being greedy. Perfect example. Why does Amazon not pay their workers fairly? Amazon is a multi-billion-dollar company, but they pay their employees like crap. So let me see. I'm about to Google search. How much is Amazon worth? When I do a quick Google search on my phone, the first thing that shows up, I'm looking up a random article. I see something related to the stock market, Amazon.com Incorporate, market capital of 1.42 trillion US dollars. I also see another article under gobankingrates.com. Again, that's gobankingrates.com. As of 6 days ago, they mentioned Amazon's net worth as of the quarter ending December 31st, 2022 was $461 billion. I rounded that number. It says 460.98 billion, but I rounded it to 461. The Amazon makes so much flipping money, but they pay employees like trash. Like, I believe, at least here in North Carolina, the starting pay for an Amazon worker is $18 an hour or whatever. That's terrible. If you have kids, if you have other forms of debt that you have to pay on, a mortgage, everything has been going up but people's pay. So I'm pretty sure I've made the point with what I'm trying to say as far as, knowing your worth. But this is a lesson that I have been really learning a lot over the last, I'd say 6, 7 years. I've really been tapping into this concept over the last year and a half, though. So now when I drive past some of these fast food restaurants and some of these other companies and stores, pretty much the jobs where you don't really have to have a degree to work there, I'm looking at what they are willing to pay people, and I'm just thinking to myself, wow, the fact that y'all used to be okay with paying people $8 an hour, $9 an hour, $10 an hour, and now to see that you're actually willing to pay people close to $18 an hour, it just baffles me. I remember when the pandemic was fresh and started to calm down, I heard that Target was paying people or willing to pay people $24 an hour. I don't remember what state that was in. That wasn't here in North Carolina. But I'm like, wow, that is some good money. I do want to throw this afterthought out there when I say that. Although companies will be like, oh, we're going to give you 18, 19, 20 an hour for this fast food job or whatever. How many hours are you giving people? Because some of these companies, they'll try to pull you in with what they offer to pay you. And then they'll turn around and give you crappy hours to work per week. You don't always get those 40 hours per week. They might try to stick you to 20 hours a week or whatever. So it's like the hourly pay rate looks good, but then they hurt you with the number of hours per week you can work. And then they don't give you overtime because, if you get overtime, you got to get paid time and a half. So if you're working and getting, let's say if you're getting $18 an hour, time and a half for $18 an hour would be $27 an hour for every hour above 40 hours a week of overtime. That hourly rate has to go up to 27. These companies ain't going to want to do all that. So a lot of people have just been doing their own thing, trying to tap into their creative passions, doing things with their hands, offering consulting services or whatever, like just doing whatever it is that's possible to make extra money, to make ends meet. I've also been hearing a few other people say here on YouTube and other platforms that they feel the universe has abundance for everyone, meaning that there should not be people out here having to struggle to make money. They believe there is enough money out here for everyone to be able to do what they want to do. And I personally believe that. I feel like if you work hard enough for something and you really want it and you're very passionate and you're creative and you're driven and you're determined, I feel like what is for you and what is meant for you will be for you. There's something out there for everyone. If you have a phone nowadays, you can make money. There is so much you can do on these smartphones that you could not do 15 years ago. So there are so many ways to make money. You can go out here and Uber. You can go out here and trade in the stock market on your phone. You can sell things from your phone. There's apps that allow you to do that. There are so many avenues that you could explore to make money besides trading your time for $1 at someone's company. And I'm not against, what I just said, working for someone else. I just feel like if you put your time into someone else's company, you should be getting paid fairly for that, because that's time that you can't get back. That's time that you're not able to invest into yourself because you're investing that time into someone else's establishment, building up someone else's company. So if you have to trade in your time for dollars, why not get paid fairly for that and still do something else on the side so that you can make even more money? Because in this day and age, it's not really smart to just have one income anymore. You pretty much want to have multiple sources of income. So I don't know. I'm just at a point in my life where I know my worth because I've learned so much from personal life experiences and from all my jobs that I've had while I was in college, as well as after graduating from college. I've learned so much. I've evolved. I'm only 30 years old. That might be old to some people. That might be very young to other people. I mean, I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm still young. I still have more life to live, God willing. But, I want to be able to enjoy this life I have on planet Earth. I don't want to be bound to debt for the rest of my life. More specifically, unnecessary debt, because all debt is not bad in my opinion. But I want to have financial freedom. I want to be able to make the money that I make now and keep at least more than half of my income after paying bills. That's my dream for me. I want to be in a position where I can help the people that I love and care about should they need some assistance from me. I don't want to be in a position where I can't help other people if I can't even help myself first. And that all boils down to knowing your worth. Because if you sell yourself short and you continue to do that for several years before you have a wake the truck up moment, and I'm saying truck because you can replace it with what rhymes with truck. But when you have a wake the truck up moment and you look back on your life and you're like, wow, I missed out on $1.2 million because I didn't realize my worth, it's just going to suck because you can't get those years back. And it's just crazy the way America is set up to just keep people wanting to always spend, 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 spend. No one wants to own anything. It's always what's the next newest product that we can get our hands on. Like, and there's nothing wrong with having nice things, but it's just like, it just seems like everything's always about operating in debt, living in debt. And, I'm not okay with that, especially with how these companies treat us. These companies would be nothing if it weren't for the workers. They would be nothing. The people have the power and they know it. But the problem is they also know there are people who are desperate and struggling and are willing to work for the bare minimum. So it's like if everybody would just come together and, you know, put pressure on getting paid your worth, things would change. But I understand not everyone is able to do that because people have mouths to feed, people have bills to pay. And, again, some people might be people might be working multiple jobs to make ends meet. So yeah, they might be able to bring that money in, but their quality of life suffers. You miss out on memories that you're able to make with friends and family because you always have to trade in all your time to work. And it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to put your time into building up some company's establishment, building their empire or wherever you choose to work. And you should also be able to have time to build your own personal empire, to be able to put time back into your life, put time into the things that you like to do and the things that you love, the people who you love, the people who you care about. So that also plays into knowing your worth, because everything doesn't always have to be about money. I feel like there needs to be a balance with everything because we are very smart and multifaceted, multi-talented individuals. We have a lot of power. There are so many things we are good at. And sometimes I feel like we get caught in this tunnel vision mentality of gotta find a job, gotta find a job, gotta find someone who I can work for, instead of trying to explore other ways that are not always conventional or traditional to make money. And I get it. Someone might be like, not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes people would much rather work for somebody else because, the company takes on all the risk and all that other stuff of starting up from scratch and whatever. And the workers don't have to deal with all of that. They can just clock in and clock out. So I get it. Companies help create job opportunities for other people. But just like I'm saying, we can take other approaches to make money and work for ourselves. That's the same path these companies took, or the CEO or the president or whoever owns these companies. The person who owns the company that you worked at for your last job, they were somebody who decided they didn't want to work for somebody else. They wanted to make their own money by running a business. And later on in life, they needed to have employees. And that's how you came into the picture as their employee. So I feel like we all have our niche and our place in this world, but we all bring value to this world somehow, some way. We all bring value to it. And I feel like there needs to be a balance when it comes to that. We all have to know our worth, and we all have to put our foot down when it comes to being stepped over. Like we shouldn't be getting screwed over just for the rich to get richer and the poor to stay poor. Like, it's just crazy, especially when you're spending money on an education to better yourself. People go to college with the hope of getting a good paying job, and it's not even guaranteed. And that's just crazy when you think about that. So, yeah, I just wanted to put this podcast out to again just say how I was feeling about, people just knowing their worth and, how it's affected me in my life and what I'm trying to do to change it, and what I would like to see done to change it. And as for me, what I'm doing to change it is I'm not accepting anything that is beneath my worth anymore because I have way too many years of experience. I'm also not going to tie up all my streams of income into just one job. I want to have multiple sources of income. And I also want to, I guess I want to do like a hybrid of both. I want to own my own business, and I also want to help build up someone else's business. I want to work for somebody else, but I also want to do my own thing. I want to do both. And then I want to have time to enjoy my life, make memories, travel, you know? That's what I want my life to look like. So I'm going to end this podcast here because it is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I feel like I did a good job just winging this because I didn't know what I was going to say or how I was going to say it. I just wanted to push the record button on my phone and just let it all out. I'm using my Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, which came out, I believe, February of 2022. And this thing does a great job with recording what I'm saying. So I enjoy it. I hope you all can hear me clearly on it. And I also do want to let you all know my podcast is available on Spotify. It's also available on Google Podcasts, and it is also available here on YouTube. So those are the three platforms I've been using to put my podcast on. I am also going to be starting a Patreon for my podcast because I do want to make some exclusive content for the things that I might not be able to post on these platforms, because every platform has their rules for what you can and cannot say in your podcast. And I'm not saying that I'm going to say anything disrespectful or anything like that. I just know social media is starting to get into this realm of trying to silence people or put restrictions on what people can and cannot say. Even if it's not something bad, you should be allowed to say what you want to say as long as it's respectful and it's not, divisive and violent or whatever. But even if it's not divisive or violent, social media or the people who own these social media platforms are still gonna, put restrictions on what you're allowed to say and post. So I am going to put some exclusive content on Patreon. So be on the lookout for that. And if you want to support my podcast, donations will definitely be welcomed, if you do choose to do that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this podcast. My name is Unique. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Get Inspired with Unique. And I hope to see you all on my next podcast. Take care, and thanks for listening.